Hello friends, in this video I want you to know that how the diuretics work. Pharmacologic therapy. Drug therapy is recommended for individuals with blood pressures is greater or equal to 140 by 90 millimeters of mercury. Lowering systolic blood pressure by 10 to 12 millimeters of mercury and diastolic blood pressure by 5 to 6 millimeters of mercury confers relative risk reduction of 35 to 45% for stroke, 12 to 16% for CHD, and reduction in heart failure is greater than 50% within 5 years of the initiation of treatment. Low-dose thiazide diuretics may be used alone or in combination with other antihypertensive drugs. Thiazides like hydrochlorothiazide and chlorothalidone inhibit the sodium chloride pump in the distal convoluted tubule and hence increase sodium excretion. Let's see the mechanism how they work. Nephron is the functional unit of kidney. Distal convoluted tubular part of nephron is impermeable to water and urea, so this part of nephron is called diluting segment. The tubular surface of the cell contains sodium chloride cotransporter. These transporter moves sodium and chloride into the cell from the tubular lumen. The thiazide diuretics inhibit these transporters, hence the excretion of sodium is increased. Loop diuretics like furosemide and ethacrynic acid are another segment of diuretics which acts on the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. Let's understand the mechanism. The luminal surface of the cells contains special transporter called sodium-potassium 2 chloride cotransporter. These transporters pushes the sodium, potassium and chloride into the cell from tubular lumen. The loop diuretics block these transporters. As a result, the transport of sodium, potassium and chloride into the cell is inhibited and these are excreted. Aldosterone antagonists like spironolactone and eplerenone are the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists which ultimately conserve potassium. Let's see the mechanism. The late distal and cortical collecting tubule contains a special type of cell called principal cell. The aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid hormone secreted by the adrenal cortex of suprarenal gland. There are mineralocorticoid or aldosterone receptors present in the cell. Aldosterone attaches with this receptor which activates the genetic machinery. As a result, messenger RNA is formed. This messenger RNA comes into the cytoplasm where it synthesizes the channel proteins. These channels are then expressed on the cell membrane. The sodium is transported by sodium channel into the cell, then it is pushed to the interstitium by sodium-potassium ATPase. The potassium is pumped into the cell, then it is transported to the tubular lumen by potassium channel. Aldosterone antagonist blocks the mineralocorticoid receptors. As a result, the aldosterone cannot perform its function, so channel proteins are expressed less on the cell membrane. Eventually sodium is absorbed less and potassium is excreted less. Potassium-retaining diuretics like amiloride and triamterene block the sodium channels, which ultimately leads to conserved potassium. Let's see the mechanism. The cells of late distal and cortical collecting tubule contains two types of cell, principal cell and intercalated cells. The potassium-retaining diuretics acts on principal cells. The luminal surface of these cells contains sodium channel and potassium channels. Normally, the sodium enters into the cell through this channel, and then the sodium-potassium ATPase present on the cell at the interstitial side pushes the sodium to the interstitium. The potassium present in the interstitium enters into the cell through this channel against the concentration gradient at the cost of ATP. And finally, the potassium channel transport the potassium outside the cell into the tubular lumen. It means sodium is transported in and potassium is transported out by the cells of this segment of nephron. The potassium-retaining diuretics are actually sodium channel blocker that block the sodium channel. Ultimately, the excretion of potassium is reduced or the potassium is retained in the body. Dear friends, in my next video I will be telling about the others pharmacological agents which controls the blood pressure. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click or touch the subscribe and bell icon. Stay tuned for the next video.